Greetings and salutations, my lovelies. Bardic Kitty here, bringing you a your choice, like viewer's choice drawing. So I had been asking for suggestions for things to draw, and I have put them all in this little Gladware container, and I'm going to be drawing one out. And so he would do that here in a second. There it is. All right. And so I kind of shorthanded some of these, so the one that I ended up picking, I put the actual request down here. He said he liked the characters from my last video, and he would like to see more characterization about like the fighter character in particular, and that maybe she was the Nunja character, which, if you don't remember from a previous video, also I will be putting those up here in a second. So he specifically mentioned the characters in the spirograph art, and that's this character here. She was featured just in last week's video, and along with another character who will also be in this week's art. And then here's the Nunja, who I colored in a previous video. So like I didn't really intend to ever do much with the Nunja again, and especially not really ever explain who she is. So it took some thinking. So the first thing I did was a lot of sketches, and I did like some different planning things. He did specify maybe seeing her protecting the other character from the Spirograph video, or the Spyro Gals is what I called them. And so I was doing some different sketches, and like I actually did even like a very simple, almost comic page kind of thing, where, you know, how I would do it if she was actually the Nunja. But the more I thought about it, it's like, it just didn't seem right. And so I ended up going with a different direction entirely. I am going to point out now, in case you didn't notice from the video title, this is going to be just the sketching and inking portion of this piece, because I did, you know, I had a lot of stuff going on this past weekend. I went with my husband to some Magic the Gathering stuff this past weekend and didn't really have a lot of time to do much there. That's where I did like those first few sketches. But then I also, just because this was something that, you know, I hadn't put as much thought into, and I wanted to make sure that I really like made it make sense. I was trying to figure out the characterization for these characters and work things out like that, and so I just kind of got a bit of a later start and was really stuck on it at first. What I ended up finally going with is that she's not the Nunja. What little idea I had of who she is, she felt more like kind of a street brawler, maybe part of a gang, I don't know. Not like a bad gang that goes around hurting people, but, you know, somebody who would protect others who are on her turf if she thinks that people are doing stupid stuff and she's going to stop them from hurting people. But then also the other character, the one that he suggested, the blonde who he suggested, maybe having her protect, didn't feel like the kind of character who would get into that kind of trouble. And so instead, what ended up happening was I came up with this nice, this friendship that they have, where the fighter character, which they need names. If you have suggestions for names, you know, I might consider those. So this character, you know, she goes out and she gets in her fights or whatever, and then the other girl, the blonde, is the one who comes in afterwards and like patches her back up or whatever. And so that's what the last two sketches were, was this concept, which I ended up going with. Well, sort of like in the original sketch in the sketchbook, she was like hands on her hips glaring at her rather than just kind of hanging out there with her and being at least kind of supportive. And then like the other sketch that I had done, like concept-wise, was the idea that, you know, they were inside and she was about to like patch her up with a first aid kit or whatever. And I don't know, I felt like this was like a sweet kind of weird relationship where she's like, I hate that you get in these fights and you're kind of stupid, but, you know, I'm here for you anyway when you're bloody and beaten. And so that's kind of, hello, Cassandra. He just jumped on the back of the chair and almost jumped to me backwards. Cassandra is a very large cat. Will you settle down, please? Settle down. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, so I basically reached a point where I finally figured out what was going on, and I had started the sketch, and I wanted it to be really nice, and I wanted to include like a good background and everything. And I quickly realized that I wasn't going to have time to finish all of it unless I really rushed. And I didn't want to do that because I wanted this piece to be special and I wanted to make sure that it came out good. So that's why here you have the, hi, oh my goodness. I don't know if you can hear him purring, but he's in my lap now and very, very happy. Anyway, kitty under, kitty kitty. I lost track of what I was saying. What was I saying? Oh, I wanted it to be really, like a really good piece, and I didn't want to rush through the coloring because I knew that that could ruin the piece instead of like, you know, making it what it should be. So this is part 1 of the viewer's choice, and then next week's video I will do just the coloring and I will work all of that out. So for the background, I just went ahead and I looked up a lot of pictures on Google Images just to get some ideas and some inspiration. And so I have them in this basically a city back alley. And so they've got like the decrepit falling apart because it's been there in the weather for, you know, years, no parking anytime sign, and, you know, the brick, and then like like a concrete strip at the bottom, and they're going to be sitting on like, you know, like torn up asphalt or whatever. I've never really lived in a city. I mean, I guess technically I've lived in a city because I went to school in Lexington and lived there for a couple of years when I got out of college, but I've been told over and over again that that's not really a big city by any stretch of the imagination. And I grew up on a farm, so my knowledge of all of this stuff is pretty lacking, I'll be honest. You know, I see big cities in movies. And sometimes friends who have lived in or visited big cities will tell me about them. But I mean, that's why I was like really kind of, I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing with this character concept, because like I said, she felt like somebody that would be like, you know, like a street brawler kind of character or whatever, but I've never had an experience where that's really been a thing. So I apologize if anything I've said in this video is just completely stupid, because it's just not something that I have experienced or that I know anything about, being, you know, a country girl who, you know, has never been, you know, grown up in a large city or really had that, you know, quote unquote urban experience. So, yeah, so disclaimer, I guess. Uh, now I feel stupid and I don't know what else to say. Anyway, so no, I'm pretty happy with the way the background turned out. I'm a little concerned about whether I'm going to regret having put in so much detail in the line work, but I'm hoping it will turn out okay, because I will actually ink the individual bricks and everything. And again, I had trouble with Blondie's face. I did in the last video, and I was trying to kind of, it's funny because I was trying to replicate the issues that I had with her face and give her like darker around the eyes, like she's wearing the same kind of makeup or whatever, because she came across to me as being like somebody who like puts on all the eyeliner because of the way I messed up on the last video. But this time I did it intentionally, and I feel like it did okay, but I could have done better. There's always things looking back, like watching the video as I'm doing the voiceover, I'm like, oh man, her chin should have been tilted slightly more, her ear should have been up higher, oh my goodness, like the angle is all wrong. And it's just something that's going to happen, because as soon as you step away from the artwork, it's going to suddenly look more clear the next time you go up to it. And unfortunately, I did do all of the sketching and inking pretty much in one sitting, because I was trying to make sure I got it done in plenty of time, and I wanted to get you guys a good video. And as artists, this is something that, you know, I'm going to look at and I'm going to see, and eventually, you know, I'll start to recognize this kind of thing sooner and get better in general about drawing like the different angles, because that's something I am working on, is trying to not draw everybody from the same like straight ahead 3/4 you know, not looking up or down, just boring angle. um, but yeah, so here it is, and I'm putting in the final details in the sign, and then I'm going to erase it, which I think I went ahead and cut that part out so that it wouldn't be, yeah, there you go. And here is the inked portion of this piece, and stay tuned next week to watch me color it, and hopefully it will turn out as awesome as I want it to, because you guys are great and I love you and I want you to have good art to look at. So until next time, I love you all and I hope you have a beautiful week.